què tal? Com esteu? Benvinguts de nou a Learn Catalan from Barcelona. Long time no see, right? Time went by very quickly. I know I always say this, but it's true. I can't believe it's almost end of 2019 and yeah, but here I am with another video to learn a bit more Catalan, and today focused on this very interesting, maybe not the most exciting topic, but very interesting topic to have a look at past tenses in Catalan. So Christmas came early. You can look forward to that for sure. But a couple of things before we get started today. If everything works out, I can say that there will still be 2 more videos coming out before the end of the year. So I think that's great and something to look forward to. The next video, it's probably going to be a conversation fully in Catalan, not that basic anymore. So yeah, bear that in mind, and probably another video even in December as well. The second thing is that Learn Catalan from Barcelona is now on Instagram as well. Ya era hora. Ya era hora. It was about time. Or not, I don't know. But yes, I just recently opened an Instagram. Let's see how that goes, and yeah, you can also look forward to some more Catalan in that space too. And now we can get started and talk about verbal tenses. Okay, so just in terms of context and background, today we'll be having a look at 3 past verbal tenses in Catalan. That doesn't mean, unfortunately, that these are all the verbal tenses in Catalan. I chose these 3 because they are, you know, used very often, and you can so that you can easily identify them and start using them. These 3 verbal tenses are in the indicative mood. There's also the subjunctive mood. That's another layer, bit of a complex one, and maybe something to address next year if you're interested in that. And then also in terms of background, interesting to know that in Catalan, as it happens in Spanish, we have simple verbal tenses and we also have compound verbal tenses. A simple verbal tense consists of just the verb, which is one word, but a compound verbal tense has an auxiliary verb or helping verb, and then the actual verb which gives the meaning. So today we have both simple verbal tenses and compound verbal tenses. Sounds interesting, right? Okay, so if we start with perfect. Perfect is a verbal tense that is a compound verbal tense, and it actually refers to a past time very close to the period of time that we are describing or referring to. We'll have a look at an example in a moment, but let's first have a look at this structure, just to have our thoughts clear. It's a compound tense, yes, that means that it has the auxiliary verb or helping verb haber, which has no actual meaning, followed by al participi, the past participle. So in terms of conjugation, it's interesting because we would always conjugate the helping verb or the auxiliary verb depending on the subject we have, and the participle, you know, past participle always remains the same. So that makes things easier, I think. So in terms of conjugation, it would be, let's take for example the verb to cook, cuinar. Jo he cuinat, tu has cuinat, ell ha cuinat, nosaltres hem cuinat, vosaltres heu cuinat, ells han cuinat. Okay, so you see that the conjugation happens in the helping verb, auxiliary verb, and then the participle always remains the same. So okay, so we said that we would use this verb to refer to a past time that is close to the period of time that we're describing. So for example, imagine that I want to talk to you about what I've been doing today. It's evening or nighttime, and then I'm describing the things that I did earlier, then I would say avui he esmorzat pa amb tomàquet, avui he parlat amb la meva germana. Okay, so to refer to all of the previous actions that I've been doing today, then I would use parfait. Another way of looking at it, we could also use parfait to talk about, you know, we could be referring to a broader period of time, but in this case, yeah, it's also somehow recent, so I could also say aquest any hem anat a molts casaments. Aquest any hem anat a molts casaments. This year we've been to several or many weddings. I am referring to this year. It's a relatively, you know, close time within the past, so I will be using parfait as well. Another case when you could use this verbal tense is to talk about long-term wishes that you've had but you have not yet done. Sempre he volgut menjar sushi al Japó. I've always wanted to eat sushi in Japan. So this is the first one, parfait, compound tense, to talk about a relatively close past time. The next one is al passat periphrastic. The name is actually terrifying, and it always, you know, I have these memories of when I was studying the verbal tenses at school, because if you're familiar with Spanish, you know, verbal tenses are much more rich, let's say, than in English, in all Romance languages like French, Italian, Spanish, and so I remember we had to study these like very busy tables, and they told you, okay, now conjugate the passat periphrastic of the verb, I don't know, whatever random verb, like hoovering or something. Then you had to write everything down. Okay, so terrifying name, but quite straightforward. Passat periphrastic. This is also a past verbal tense that is compound. So this one indicates about something that happened in the past, and it finished. The action is completed, and there's no, let's say, connection between like the present of a period of time that we're referring to, or the duration, and so as it happened with the previous one. So for example, today is Sunday, and I want to tell you about all the things that I did yesterday, which is a closed and past time. So I would say ahir vaig córrer una marató, ahir vaig dinar amb la meva família, o ahir vaig veure una pel·lícula al cinema. How would we conjugate that? This is also, again, as I said, a compound verbal tense. That means that in this case the helping verb or auxiliary verb is anar, which it actually means to go, but it does not have that specific meaning when you conjugate it in this verbal tense. So you would say jo vaig veure, tu vas veure, ell va veure, nosaltres vam veure, vosaltres vau veure, ells van veure. So you see that in this case, again, we conjugate the helping or auxiliary verb, and the actual verb with meaning and content remains unchanged. Okay, and then imperfect, the last past tense that we're looking at today. Imperfect is a simple past tense, so that means it has no auxiliary or helping verb, and then we would conjugate the main verb, let's say. We use imperfect to refer to a past time, and it implies that it's something that lasts for a long time, that it had a duration, or something that somehow remained stable. So it's a typical verb, for example, that we would use, you know, when you're describing what you did or what you used to do when you were little. So for example, I could say quan era petita no m'agradava la verdura, for example, or quan era petita tenia dues tortugues. In this case, era, to be, and liked or had, these are these verbs are all of these in imperfect. And then again, because it has this duration connotation, something that goes through the time, then it's also a verbal tense that it's sometimes used in contrast with another verbal tense that just refers to a specific action happening at one specific point. So for example, what in English would be, you know, my parents were cooking, where cooking is an action that takes a long period of time, when I came home. Coming home is just a moment, right? Whereas where cooking implies that it's something that was happening for a certain period of time, a certain amount of time. So the same would be in Catalan. Els meus pares cuinaven, imperfect, quan vaig arribar a casa. And so here we would be combining imperfect with passat periphrastic. Okay, so a lot of information today, I feel like. But I hope, yes, again, it's helpful in terms of structuring your thoughts, starting to be familiar with this 3 different verbal tenses to refer to the past, which again serve different needs. That was just an introduction. We have not covered all of the verbal tenses yet, so in case you want, you know, chapter number 2 of that, let me know. In terms of resources, the last video that I uploaded, which was that song from Manel, that cover from Manel, I actually uploaded that video not only to do a bit of a different or fun video, but also because it's a very rich song in terms of grammar. So you can definitely go back to the song and now analyze with a bit more knowledge the past verbal tenses that you have, especially during the first half of the song when it's remembering what happened in the previous night. And then in the description box below, I'll also link this link to a website where you can conjugate all Catalan verbs. So you just put the verb in infinitive and then it gives you all of the conjugations, so that you can also have a look at that. Yeah, so I hope you liked this video. I'm very informative for sure, but as I said before, you can look forward to a Catalan conversation coming in the next couple of weeks or so. Moltes gràcies, cuideu-vos molt i fins aviat. Adeu!